Hello, and welcome once again to Know Before You Go, a program of the Dominican Central Province of St. Albert the Great that allows us to take a look ahead at the upcoming weekend's readings. I am Father Jim Marchionda, Provincial of the Chicago Dominicans, and am happy to be with you once again as we approach the 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We have readings this weekend from the prophet Habakkuk, from St. Paul's second letter to Timothy, and from the Gospel of Luke. And I think if I were to try to summarize the theme, it would be like in 3 chapters from those 3 authors. The first chapter would be Poor Me. The second chapter would be Get a Grip. And the third chapter would be Lean on God More, so that you can hang in there. I think the readings are great because they address some of our own struggles with our faith lives. They address some of our doubts. And I think they both challenge us to endure our doubts faithfully and then to lean on a higher power so that we actually come to some better resolution that remains full of faith. The first reading from Habakkuk starts out with the poor me theme. And the author says, Lord, how long am I going to have to observe all this misery? I cry out about it and you never listen to me. You don't answer. Why do I have to endure this? So that's the poor me part from the first reading that you're going to hear. Maybe you'll identify with that. But then in the second half of the reading, the Lord answers and says, stay focused. Stay focused on the vision. The vision will not disappoint you. So it's good because even though he's saying poor me, he's already getting an answer to his poor me. Saying that the vision that God has given us is worth being faithful to and worth being patient in waiting for. That leads us well into the second reading, which is Paul's second letter to Timothy, and he's encouraging him. Timothy must be going through a poor me part of his life too, because Paul seems to be trying to encourage him. And he says to him, stir into flame the gift that God has already given you. Which means ignite it. Remember what you've been given. Remember who God is in your life. Remember that you have the Holy Spirit. And he says, bear your share of the hardship for the gospel. Bear your share of hardship for the sake of the gospel. And that's where I said chapter 2 means get a grip. Come on. Of course things are hard. Of course we're faced with challenges day after day. So just like Habakkuk was, and God said, hang on to the vision, hang on to the dream, Paul is saying the very same thing to Timothy. And he's saying here, bear your share. It's hard, but it is worth hanging on to. The Gospel of Luke is interesting in the context of those first 2 readings because the Gospel of Luke is the story of the disciples saying to Jesus, Lord, increase our faith. And Jesus very surprisingly says what you will recognize. He very surprisingly says, what? If you had the faith of a mustard seed, you would be able to say to this mulberry tree, uproot yourself and plant yourself in the ocean. So all of a sudden, we see Jesus saying, come on, fellas. Learn to trust more. You've got the faith. Learn to trust more that God is with you. And get on with your job. Get on with your duties to be my disciples. It's actually about enduring responsibility, no matter how hard it gets. And Jesus goes on to tell them the parable of a master and his servant coming in from working on the field all day. You're going to recognize that story too. And he says to them, what is the master supposed to say? I'm sorry you've had to work so hard in the field. Why don't you sit down and I'll wait on you? He says, no. He says, sit down. I'll sit down and you wait on me even though you've had a tough day. Saying, why do we not simply assume our responsibility joyfully? And even though it gets tough, still realize it's our responsibility. Lean on God and then hang in there. Lean on God with all your heart and then go back to the hard things that we all have to face as part of our discipleship and remain faithful and even grow in our faithfulness because we know God is with us. 3 chapters to this weekend as you prepare for Mass. Poor me, poor me. Chapter 2, get a grip. Chapter 3, lean on God and you will be fine. Now go back to the hard things and reface them, readdress them with the faith that God has already given you. God bless you.